Welcome to That Anita Live, the talk show dedicated to providing emotional healing through sharing to help you create a happier life. Sarah Jane Thomas, PhD, we'll dig into that later, is a regional technology coordinator in Prince George's County Public Schools. Y'all pray for her. She's in the public school system. Lord. She's in the building to share how technology can be used to improve the self-esteem of your students. Please welcome Miss Sarah Jane Thomas to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, first back up. Talk to me about what's the PhD?
Oh yes, I just graduated probably in 2017 from George Mason University.
Okay.
And got my PhD in international education. So it took 10 and a half years, 10 and a half long years, yes, but finally done, so.
Wow, international education.
Yes, yes.
How is that different from just getting a elementary education degree?
I would say the specializations, you know, your area of focus, whatever you decide to dig into with your research. So, so what I did was that I worked with a young man who came from Haiti, and he, because my family's from Haiti. Okay. So, so he was using tech in order to learn English. So that was my dissertation topic. And so now, you know, I really have a passion for technology with English learners.
Why? With everything going on in the world today, why do you want to work in the public school system?
Oh, I love the public school system. There is nothing else that I would do. You know, this is my life. This is my purpose. So yeah, so I really appreciate, you know, all of our amazing scholars and colleagues in the field. You know, so I came from public education myself. So you know, definitely there's a lot of just amazing people.
Because it takes a special calling.
Oh, yes.
To work in public school.
Right, in any school.
What is it that you like about it?
I love watching the students grow. I was in the classroom myself for 10 years and a little over a quarter. And that relationship that you build with students, you know, when you work with them, and I was blessed to be in the same school for 7 years, and I saw them go from, like, it was a K-8 school, so I had my second graders, and I saw them all the way through the end of 8th grade, and just got so close with them and with their families, and I mean, they felt like family. Okay. Yeah, so I love that.
So obviously, with the grin on her face and the smile that she has found her purpose. Yes. She is truly working in that which feeds your soul.
Yes, thank you.
Now, why technology?
Oh, technology. Oh my goodness, that's been, my family being the way they are, that's been kind of a part of my life ever since I was itty bitty. Like my brother, he's 13 years older than me. Okay. And so when he started working and he got his Atari, then he got like a game on there to teach me letters. I mean, it's always kind of been something that's been around me. So my undergrad was in radio, TV, film, and I worked at Access Montgomery for a few years, and so, you know, video is still a huge part of my life.
Because while we were all turning our phones off, this one said she had to turn her watch off.
Yes.
So tell me, for those of us that are not technology savvy, what is the draw for students to technology?
I would say students with technology, a lot of them have grown up with it, a lot of them have not. But, well, I mean, they might see their friends using it. But, you know, it's funny because there's technology that's used for recreation, and there's also technology that's used for instruction. Okay. So there's kind of a breakdown sometimes between the two. Like our students, you know, they're very adept at entertaining themselves with the technology, and some of them are a little resistant to using that same tech for learning, but it really transforms the educational process.
Fortnite is...
Oh my goodness, Fortnite, they're all about that Fortnite.
What is it?
My godson loves it. It's some game that they play where they, I don't know too much about it, but I think they conquer lands or something, and I know that the characters do all kinds of dances.
Okay, so let's agree that's entertainment.
That's entertainment, yes.
Okay, now, what are they using for instruction, like educational?
Yeah, there's so many different things. The technology that I prefer to use for instruction is things that let students create. So, you know, whether they are creating, there's one thing called Flipgrid that lets them like respond to questions with videos.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of coding that students can do. I really love seeing them connect with other students around the world.
Okay.
So being able to just kind of eliminate those borders of time and space. And, you know, sometimes you have these students learning together, like there might be a class in Maryland learning alongside a class in New Zealand. We did that, my class did that with blogging. So they had blog partners in New Zealand. So, I mean, it's a very different world than yes.
You can't,
Yes.
you cannot express that enough.
Right.
That is a very different world.
It is a very different world.
For the parent that is apprehensive, when the child comes home and says, I am blogging with my friend in New Zealand,
Yes.
what does the technology coordinator say to the parent to say, why? They don't need to be talking to people all across the world to learn.
You know what I've done. Sometimes parents have been a little hesitant because that's not the way that they grew up. That's
Right.
not the way they learned.
That's not my math.
Right.
That's not my reading, writing, arithmetic.
Exactly. But sometimes bringing them into the conversation, you know, having them experience it themselves, then that's a totally different dynamic. I do a lot of presentations about social media, and you know, one of my biggest things that I encourage parents to do is to get on those networks that your children are on, and you know, have a presence there and understand it yourself to best help the student walk through it.
Well, whenever I'm on Instagram, all I see is a bunch of crazy pictures. And I don't think my child should be on Instagram. The technology coordinator says.
Well, you want to know their friends. You definitely want to know their friends. So, you know, if you have a presence there, then you can keep an eye on what's going on and open up that conversation for dialogues.
Because I have a friend. He has 3 girls and a son. And he has like 2 or 3 different personas, handles, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And he pays attention to whether or not they friend one persona, one fake account that he has versus another. He pays once they choose one to like, he looks at who all of their friends are. And really, the young man is in college, and he knows more about his son from these social media networks than they ever discussed in the household.
Right.
Now, you know, it was fun when he came home for the holidays, right? Because I told anything that his mom and dad had expressed to me. I then asked him in the form of a question, and he's like, Auntie Anita, how you know?
Right.
You know, so it's like the 3 of, he still doesn't know which account is the fake account that he's liked. I'm the one that's asking questions. So the parents get to be off the hook, so to say.
Right.
All right. And that's something else. That's another way that parents can look at it to say, because I have social media accounts and it isn't really foreign to me, but I'm not as I say educated or equipped as a lot of the students that are out there today.
Right.
So there's good and bad.
Yes.
What are some of the ways that
sides.
they learn in school to protect themselves, guard themselves, or be aware of some of the negativity that's on social media?
That's a great question. A lot of schools nowadays are adopting curriculum called digital citizenship curriculum, where it's kind of like the do's and the don'ts, but beyond that, kind of ways that students can leverage this power to their benefit. Like, for example, high school students, we encourage them sometimes to use LinkedIn, start using LinkedIn, and start, you know, keeping a document of their portfolio, you know, getting people to give them endorsements, things like that, and that can give them a leg up. So things like that, and so digital citizenship is a really hot topic in education right now, and there was one of my colleagues over at Loyola who wrote a great piece about how it's expanding because now you see students, this Generation Z, they are using this social media to change the world. You see what the students at Parkland did.
Yes.
So, I mean, our children are very, they now have that knowledge and that power to collaborate, to advocate for themselves and for society. So I'm excited.
I know you are. Miss, I must turn my watch on.
Yes, absolutely.
I know you are, but then there's that gap where some feel as if they're being left behind. You don't get on social media. That stuff is out there forever. You never know how it's going to affect you. What would you say to that? And a lot of them that I know of are grandparents. They give that caution.
Right.
What would you say to them?
Not having a social media presence in 2019 can also be a disadvantage for some students. So I think that the key is to teach them to be smart about it. And, you know, as long as they are putting things out there that put them in the best possible light, then that's really what we need to educate them on and how to help them navigate it. Because just like I tell students a lot when we do presentations on this, then if it comes down to a college recruiter looking at, you know, two identical, you know, GPAs, reports, things of that nature, they go to social media. And if they see that someone has like the obvious digital presence where they're, you know, advocating for themselves online, where they're showing their accomplishments, things like that, then they will probably go with that person if everything else is equal. Yeah, so definitely, you know, if they leverage it to their advantage.
So is social media a serious consideration when it comes to college admissions?
Absolutely, absolutely.
How so?
There was a statistic. I don't remember the exact statistic, so I don't want to misquote it, but there was a study done in 2017 that said that that more and more college recruiters are looking into social media. Like it's one of the things that I want to say it was less than half, but it was approaching that halfway mark.
So they're not just using it as a disqualifier.
Right, exactly.
But they're looking at how the student is using it in a positive manner.
Absolutely, absolutely. And career prospects as well. There was another study that was saying that that for most employers, that's their very first impression of a candidate, their social media profile, before they even walk through the door. So it just shows how important it is in 2019 to have that positive presence.
Whoa.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
We'll be right back for Sarah to break down for us how that curriculum positively affects the self-esteem of the students.
ebook.
And we're back with Sarah, and she's telling us, she's educating us on social media and technology and trying to bridge the gap between grandparents, parents, students, people that use technology, people that are on social media and those that are not, those that only see it as a negative influence, to open our minds to how it is positively used. For instance, for some of us, when we think about computers being in the classroom, all we think of is that dot matrix printer or that word processor. So when you say, or when a student says, hey, we have computers in my classroom, we're saying, okay, good, you're typing your term papers. But that's all that comes to mind for us. How else is technology being used in the classroom?
That's a great question. Technology is really being leveraged by many educators to transform the way that lessons are delivered. Like, for example, many schools are now what we call one-to-one, where the school might have a program where each student has a device. And this allows the lesson to be completely transformed. So,
okay, hold on. Each student has a device.
Right.
The device is?
It could be an iPad, it could be a Chromebook, it could be a laptop, it could be a computer lab setting.
See how that language is different?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
See that language is, okay, so now that we've known what the plethora of devices are and that they don't just have that word processor sitting on the desk. Each student has a device, and how does that help the teacher impact the student?
I would say that probably the most impactful thing for me as an educator has been to have my students create and collaborate. So, using tools such as Google Docs, then they can get on there, and while they can do the word processing, they can also collaborate very easily on a Google Doc or a slideshow or whatever, just to make the learning stick by creating something with it. So
okay, hold on, let's break that down.
All right, let's break it down.
Because the word collaborate for some of us is just two people sitting at a table.
Okay.
But when you say collaborate, you're using Google Docs, you actually mean that two different students can be working on the same slide, putting together the same slideshow.
Yes.
At the same time.
Absolutely, absolutely. There was a time when we had a project that we were doing with students in Iowa. So my 8th graders were working with these 10th grade students in Iowa. So they met them on a video chat. So that was like their face-to-face meeting.
Okay.
And then after that, then we gave them the guidelines, myself and the other teacher gave them the guidelines, and they worked together asynchronously to get an analytic essay done, as well as a slideshow to go along with it. So they picked whatever topic of their choice, controversial topic, they did the research, they cited their sources, and then they did a slideshow with it. So that was really cool to watch them do that. Yeah.
How have you seen technology in the classrooms impact, I guess, their growth? Not necessarily just in ability or learning. Now I know how to type, or now I learn terms like Google Doc or devices or platforms, but self-confidence.
Self-confidence, absolutely. A lot of times in the past, teachers have been known as sages on the stage, where they were kind of viewed as the dispenser of knowledge, and the students would just kind of sit back, take notes,
right?
Now there's a movement for the teacher to become the guide on the side, and the students take control of their learning. So the teacher acts as a facilitator.
Okay.
And the students take control of their learning, and sometimes, in these collaborative groups, then they self-manage, and that can help them to gain confidence. You can have them choose their own passions and explore those. So there's something called PBL. So the P could stand for project. The B stands for based learning. So it could be project-based learning, problem-based learning, or passion-based learning. But the goal is that the students would select something that they're passionate about. They would research it, and then they would report on it to the class. So this can really help them find maybe what they would be interested in exploring down the line. So,
what is the biggest change you've seen happen in a student?
Let me see. The biggest change that I've personally seen happen in a student, I would probably say it would be with my group that I told you about, that started in 2nd grade, and that they left me in 8th grade. There was one student, I won't say names or anything, but he had tested kind of low throughout the years, but then he got to one unit in the 8th grade, the figurative language unit. He fell in love with that. And so he soon became the guru of the class when it came to figurative language. And, he showed his knowledge, he showed off his knowledge. And, by the end, and people were just like, oh, he's the go-to guy for figurative language. And then so we did this one event that's called Ed Camp, where educators come together and they learn about whatever topic they want to. He actually led a session on figurative language to a room full of educators.
Whoa.
So that...
And hold on, define that for me. What is figurative language?
Figurative language, like in poetry, where there's like similes and metaphors, the different kinds of language. So he loved that stuff. So he ate it up, and he went ahead and turned around and did a session on it for educators. So I was so proud of him.
Yeah, and because it shows on your face. So that's the reason that you actually stay in the public school.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of transformations like that you see.
Absolutely.
Now, it sounds like once your brother got a game that taught you your ABCs on his Atari, you were hooked on technology.
Oh, yeah, from a very early age. Yeah.
So are you the technology guru in your family, or
You know, it's funny because I would say like technology back when they first got it, you know, as opposed to now, it's kind of been like a shift, right? At the beginning, all of them, my mom, my dad, my brother, they were just, you know, technology left and right, coming out of their pores. And so now, I would say, I guess I would say I would be it right now, but I mean, like they have me beat. If you take like 1983 them versus 2019 me, they have me beat. Hands down. Yes. My dad was, you know, tweaking computers, taking them apart, you know, putting different things in. I'm not at that level. I wish.
What are some of the biggest changes you saw over the 8 years, I guess, in going, or even before the 8 years, and going from a period where there were no computers in the classroom to now each child having a device?
I would say the possibilities.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I started teaching in 2004.
Okay.
And my last full year in the classroom was the 2014-2015 school year. And in those 10 years, plus another quarter after that, it had done a 180, it felt like, because, you know, we went from, I remember in 2004, the big tech was the overhead projector.
Yes.
Right? And the PowerPoints, the PowerPoints were just starting to, you know, become a thing. And there were the video sites.
In some circles, that PowerPoint is still a really big deal.
It is. You're right about that. Yeah. So it's definitely a learning process. There are millions and millions of educators, you know, in the United States, and for change to come and to get through everyone, then, you know, that does take time.
As a school tech coordinator, what is too young for a child to have their own device?
I would say it depends on the child. It depends on the child. I've seen kindergarten students do one-to-one very well. So if we're talking about home-based, then that would be, you know, that would be based on the child and based on what the child can handle.
So 5 isn't too young?
It would depend on the child and what the parent's comfortable with. Yeah.
3 isn't too young.
I've seen my godkids, you know, they don't have one of their own at that age.
Right.
You know, they still use mommies, but, you know, I've seen the 1.5-year-old go through and, you know, she knew the apps and everything that she wanted to play the ABC song. So these kids are on it. So yes, it's crazy. It is crazy.
So what do you see is next? Because technology is making our world smaller and smaller.
Absolutely.
And the Parkland students are using it to change policy domestically.
Yes.
Do you see it one day being used to change policy internationally?
Absolutely. That's definitely a possibility. Lately, I did some research very recently, and it seems that 3 main things have really kind of sprung up over the past decade in terms of educational technology. You've had better devices. You have had social media spring up, and you have also had artificial intelligence spring up. So those 3 things in combination, and now you have blockchain on top of that with like the Bitcoin and everything, and you have like all of these transactions that are being done in a public space without borders. So the ability to change policy on an international level, I don't see that as not being, you know, something that's in the very near future.
Do you see artificial intelligence being used in the classroom?
Yes.
One day?
Yes.
Or is it being used now?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
How are you using AI?
Yeah, I'm taking a course right now about using AI for education, and there's some fascinating things in there. So there have been educators and school districts using AI to grade standardized tests. There's been personalized learning that, you know, responds with AI. The course I'm currently taking is talking about chatbots, how you can have it, you know, answer questions from students. So students can ask a question and Alexa.
We're going to have Sarah come back. She's going to have to do some demos for us. Bring her laptop, or maybe we can put a magnifying glass on this watch of hers to teach us slowpokes, us non-technology people, what is really going on out there. Because she's also a Google certified innovator. She's a Google education trainer, and she's founder of the EduMatch project. What is the EduMatch project?
Oh, thank you. That is like my baby, really.
Okay.
It came about in 2014 very organically. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine through an app and she was in Texas. And she started talking about something that reminded me of what my cousin had said before. So basically, I looked to see if there was something that that matched educators with similar interests, to have them collaborate, grow together, learn together. Couldn't find anything that specifically had what I had in mind, so I just set up a Twitter account, a Google form, a website, and then people came on and they put their information in, and so I would tweet about like various people who signed up and had them kind of connect. And so from that, people who came, they brought their own ideas of what they wanted to see happen. We put them in place. So we started doing podcasts together. So
this isn't support for the students. This is support for the teachers.
For the teachers,
because
yes.
a lot of teachers, I understand that the statistic is that 20% of teachers, of non-retirement age teachers, leave the classroom every year. So there's a continuous loss of talent. Because by the time the teacher gets in and gets seasoned, they're exhausted and they just want to get out.
Right. And a lot of times that's from teaching in isolation.
So EduMatch is really support for the teachers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it spun from the podcast, and we started publishing books, and I mean, it's just been crazy. So over these past 5 years, it kind of exploded to something I never would have imagined.
Sarah's also a Google certified innovator, a Google education trainer, and founder of, as she described, the EduMatch project, a support project for teachers to promote and connect and collaborate around the world. I'm Anita, your host. Be sure to check out thatanitalive.com for where and when to see our next episode.